Albert Einstein once said, "Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another." In other words, energy is ubiquitous and connects us to each other and the world we live in. My guest today, Paula Torraco, is specialized in a concept called human design that synthesizes ancient and modern systems to help people optimize their energy flow and unlock their full potential in life. If you are interested in gaining more clarity and confidence while discovering your authentic self, this episode is for you. This is E3, Engage and Empower with Empathy. Welcome to today's episode, Paula. It is so nice to have you here. I'm going to be completely honest. This is a topic that I'm not super familiar with, so I'll be certainly learning together with the listeners and with our audience today. So you guide conscious leaders and high achievers on a transformative journey from being observers to creators of their own life on their terms. Honestly, that sounds like a dream come true. Sign me up.
Love that.
Tell me, what method do you use to help people achieve this way of living?
Oh, thank you. First, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, Rebecca. And yes, I love that. I love how you introduced that. I use a system called human design, right? So I'm a coach and I work with several tools and everything, but I have found that human design is such a powerful and transformative tool that helps people remember who they are here to be and align with that. Right. And that's so powerful because I think that the biggest privilege that we have is to actually become who we are here to be. And when we act from that place of alignment, life unfolds for us.
Tell me more about that alignment. Tell me more about human design.
So human design is a system, right? It's logical and it's empirical, right? So it's very practical, hands-on, and it uses your birth details to create an energetic profile that tells you how each of us is uniquely wired to do life. So we can understand that essentially we know that everyone is different, that everyone has their own way of doing things, that we are all different and we have our own essence, but we're trying to do life in the same way, right? Because of education, conditioning, upbringing, whatever. And so what this system does is takes your birth details to create this profile that tells you what is your way, so that it actually helps us decondition and identify where we might not be acting from a place of alignment. So this system, as I said, it's empirical and logical. It's part science, part spiritual, because it takes your birth details and it synthesizes information from the chakra system, the Kabbalah, the gene keys, astrology. It combines everything into this unique blueprint. And I'm going to be showing you yours in a minute of how it actually looks like. It does reveal, I like to say that it's your personal operating manual to do life. The way I like to say that is that human design helps us get out of our heads because we train it so much, but it helps us drop into the wisdom of our bodies. And so the alignment that we achieve is becoming energetically coherent between what our bodies are telling us with what we actually think. Then, talk about limiting beliefs and all of that. This helps us unpack all of that. And then what we actually end up saying and doing. So it's aligning our actions, right, with our thoughts and actually with the wisdom in our bodies, which are our greatest compass. It's so powerful because it helps us drop down into this vessel that we carry. And that is undoubtedly unique to us.
But what would make someone become misaligned? I mean, I'm just thinking, how does this alignment happen? You mentioned starting with your birth date. How does that work? You're born, and then at some point, your upbringing and your environment shapes you, the choices you make in life. How would you potentially become misaligned from, I guess, where you were at birth?
Yeah, I love that. I love that question. So think about it. I like to say that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? So your soul came here with a purpose, with a mission. It's connected with spirit. But then you You know, when you're a kid and you know what you want and you act more like yourself, but then you start entering the education system or, you know, culture. And so it becomes more nurture than nature. And this is where we start forgetting who we are, or where we stop doing things according to our own way and we start doing things because of expectations of others. One very simple example is, you know, for most of us, we are sacral beings. It means that one of our energetic centers is defined, right? And for us, making sounds is really important to understand what we want, what our bodies are talking. Like, it's the way that our bodies communicate with us. But making noises is seen as, you know, bad manners. And so that's one way where we kind of lose track of who we are, right? There's no emotion without movement. And if we block that, then we're missing out on very important information. Our soul chooses this energetic blueprint for us. And then because of, again, education or what we think, you know, limiting beliefs or conditioning, we start kind of going off track. And so what this tool helps us is to actually understand and remember who are we here to be. And it also gives us strategy of what's the best way that we use our energy and also how we best make things happen, which I think is super powerful. How you know you are on track, how you know you're off track, you know, how your how looks like. And from that space, I think it's the most powerful thing is like actually trusting that you have tools that you can trust, that you can be very confident that you are being guided all the time. And you can mess up on your own terms, right? It's like, okay, but I know I did it my way.
Yeah, that feels a lot better, messing up on your own terms. So how did you stumble upon human design? Was it your own personal misalignment that made you self-reflect more and think, oh, something's not right here. I need to do some self-exploration. How did you come into this line of work?
Oh, I love that. Thank you. What I have experienced in my life is that, and I totally understand it now, is that things happen. I moved to Europe because I got robbed and I lost all my material belongings. And so that was like a big wake up call. And then I noticed after doing the work that event set me on a path of personal, you know, awareness, of self-discovery, of, you know, I felt so disconnected from myself and from my emotional realm and from my feelings and from everything. And I realized that basically this was the way of life to show me, you know, like that's not the way that you're supposed to be going. There's something else. So it's really not karma, it's redirection, right? But of course, I didn't know it back then. And I moved here. I'm originally from Argentina, as you can probably hear in my accent. I moved to the Netherlands like 11 years ago. And again, I was so disconnected from myself that I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to deal with emotions. I was, you know, completely detached and almost dissociated, losing all my material belongings, and then all my titles, all my accolades and everything actually put me on this path of like, who am I? Who am I if I no longer have my material stuff, if I no longer have the titles I identify with? And then my spiritual journey began. It was a few years later that I actually stumbled across human design the first time. And I found it super overwhelming. I didn't like it at all. It was like a big rejection. And I think that that's also so good because it's also a way of my body telling me like, that's not for you right now. Then I stumbled across, I was doing this coaching certification when I left corporate. And then I came across it again. And then my curiosity was sparked. I was like, okay, well, you know, this is coming back again. And by now I know how to read the signals, you know, and to open up my awareness. And so I actually started studying it. Everything started making sense. I could see how I had a knack for it, you know, and it was also really beautiful to see how something that didn't really resonate at all back then meant that I was just not ready for it. And then I was. So I love to say that life, we're not meant to know what's next. We're just meant to know that we're making the right next step, even if we don't know where it will take us.
That's such a beautiful story. And you know what really resonated with me was your talking about, you know, your life possessions being taken from you, your title being taken from you, and how this really brought you to a point of true self-reflection and almost like an identity crisis. And what I'm finding as I interview people for this podcast is, because I'm interviewing people from a human to human perspective, we're dropping the credentials, we're dropping the titles. And I'm really learning as I do this that when I forget about the fact that I'm interviewing a senior professor at a university or an executive or a hairdresser, it doesn't matter what our titles are. We're all human. We all have our own personal journeys in life, and we all bring something incredibly valuable to the table. And I think that's probably the biggest learning that I've discovered so far. And as you were describing your experience losing your material things and being stripped of your credentials and your titles, you realized that that's not actually what matters. That there
Totally,
was
no.
something in store for you that was even more powerful, that beyond titles and material belongings.
Totally. Well, thank you for sharing that. And it's so true. Our collective purpose is to raise vibration. That's it. And the more we align with ourselves, the more we're able to do that. And we do that by being of service. I find that so beautiful, because this is for me what spirituality is. You know, it's not about rituals. It's actually understanding that we have a role to play in the collective, and we need our individuality. And I guess that's where I love this work so much, helping you remember that your uniqueness is needed and that your uniqueness matters, and you have a role to play by being you, and not what was expected of you, or not what you believe you needed to be, but you, your essence. And it doesn't really matter what you do. It's actually how are you showing up, whatever it is that you're doing.
It is your unique purpose, Paula, to help connect people with that. And that is incredible. And in fact, that's what we're about to do together. We're doing something a little bit different in this episode. For all of our listeners today, Paula, her idea was that we would actually do a human design reading so that all of you would get a flavor for what is a human design reading, what does it look like. She does this on a one-to-one basis, but she also does this in a group setting and in corporate environments and with teams. So obviously you're going to get a taste for the one-to-one piece, but she can do this in a team setting as well. So I'm totally just putting myself out there. I have no idea what to expect. Let's just see what happens. And all I have to say is, what's life without a little bit of adventure, right?
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's so connected to your profile. You will see it in a minute. But I also think that it's worth making a note about what you just said. What I love about bringing this work to teams, for example, is that it helps us honor and leverage each other's differences. It's actually understanding energetically who do we have in the room, and how can we support each other better and understand each other better, and offer probably what you need that you're not asking. Right. And I think that's so powerful for leaders, for team players, like for everyone, for anyone that wants to make their positive impact. I think that's just like honoring each other is the biggest gift that we can give each other.
That's incredible. And it reminds me a lot of the conversation I had with Carlos Martinez in an earlier episode on strengths-based leadership. I almost see this being a nice complement. So if you have people's human design profiles and you also know their top strengths, what a powerful combination that would be, right? For a leader to know their team at that intimate level.
So much. So, okay. Are we ready? Are you ready?
All right,
I'm
let's
excited.
do this.
Ooh, let me share my screen.
And for those of you listening through Apple Podcasts and you can't see the screen, Paula will try to
I will describe
describe. Yes.
Totally. Okay, you can see a weird chart with way too many details, right? Like there's numbers, there are arrows, there's centers and all of that. So first of all, Rebecca, this is your human design chart. And then the first thing that I want to say is I mentioned it already. I found it super overwhelming at the beginning, but it doesn't have to be. It's a system, right? So there's way to work with it. There's very simple starting points. And above all, it's an experiment, right? So I hope that, my goal with this is that when people hear what they're made of, they fall in love with who they are here to be, right? And they feel really seen and understood. And I always like to start my presentations with a slide that says permission to be yourself, right? So let's make it a conversation. Let's definitely keep it interactive.
So before you get into describing what we see here, tell the audience, how did we get to this report to begin with? What did you need from me in order to get there?
I asked you your birth details, so your date, time, as accurate as possible, and place of birth. So a little bit different. I've worked in corporate before, and I've done insight trainings and all these kind of trainings. The difference with this one is that, as I said, it pulls from many, many different systems. It synthesizes astrology and all of that, and it's not based on your answers. It's actually, you have no idea what I'm going to be sharing with you right now. So you didn't have to go through an extensive list of questions, and you didn't have to give your most objective answer at all. It's something that I'm actually collecting from your birth details. So whoever wants to do a human design reading, this is going to be the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what we see here is a chart. This is your body graph, as we call it. And I'm not going to go into all of these details because a reading takes about 90 minutes. And I know we are shorter on time today, but I think it's always nice to explain. What we see here is your body graph. And, these triangles, these are actually energetic centers. These are areas of your experience. These energetic centers that you can relate to the chakras, if you will, each of them govern a specific area of your life experience. So it's very practical. It's very down to earth, right? Here is your crown center this is how you deal with inspiration. This is your center of conceptualization. This is your mind, right? This blue one here. This is your throat center, which is the center of communication and manifestation, where everything wants to be expressed, basically. This is your center of identity. This is your ego center, your heart center. This is your willpower center and your sense of self-worth. This is your sacral. This is your life force center. This is your emotions. This is your solar plexus. We will see what this all means. This is the spleen. This is your center of intuition, which is fully activated, as you can see. And the bottom one is your root. This is how you deal with stress. And so what we can see in this center, well, the idea is that the combination of these centers that you have open or undefined, like everything that is white, right? You still have them, but it's open or undefined. And these two centers that we have shaded are defined. The combination of centers that one has that are defined or undefined determines your energy type. And in human design, you are what we call a 1-3 splenic projector. And this is what we're going to be talking about. This can look like a lot, and it is to study it, but actually if you take something from today, is that you're a 1-3 splenic projector, and we will see what that means.
I can see why you were overwhelmed when you looked at this initially, because that was my initial reaction to this visual. Whoa, where do you even start?
I'm going to tell you. And I love that because that's exactly how it felt, but it totally makes sense. So my goal is that you leave this call with clarity, and that the people that are listening also get a flavor of what it looks like to actually have a human design reading. So what does it mean to be a projector? In human design, we have 5 energy types. We have generators, manifesting generators, which is like me, I'm a generator. We're 70% of the population. Then we have projectors like you, manifestors, and reflectors. Being a projector means that you're part of the group of 20% of the population. So I'm already going to tell you, your life experience is different. Projector energy, you don't have your sacral center defined, and this means that your life force energy fluctuates. So you work best in bursts. Human design is going to tell us how we best use our energy and how we best make things happen. So as a projector, it's not so much the value of how much you're able to do, but the perspective that you bring to the table. It's actually the unique way that you have to see things. It's almost like you're that bird that is sitting on the branch and can see how to get from A to B in the best, most efficient way. Your gift is your perspective, how you see things. Now, now we live in a generator's world, right? So 70% of us are like go, go, go energy. And so it's like, if you're trying to, this is where we go out of alignment. If you're trying to use your energy in a way that I would, you're probably going to be out of alignment because you're not honoring your unique way of doing things, right? So for you, for projectors, it's really the perspective. Your gift is the perspective that you bring, right? So you're really good at guiding the use of energy. To put a little bit of like a comparison, if you think of a car, right? So manifestors are 9%. They are the key, to start the engine. Generators and manifesting generators, we're the motor, we're the engine. We keep it going. Projectors are the steering wheel. You're really good at actually understanding where to take that energy. So it's not so much the capacity to do, but actually how you see things. But then it bears the question, how much do you honor that, or you think that your worth is in how much you're able to do? This is where most of the projectors go out, like they feel like, well, I think I'm lazy, because you need rest. Your energy works way better when you actually work in chunks of like 3-4 hours, and then you honor your need for rest.
That's powerful. There are a couple of reflections I have on that. One is I'm coming back to the Clifton Strengths methodology that I discussed with Carlos, where I lead with strategic thinking, and connectedness is my number one strength. And the connectedness strength is really the ability to understand that there's a higher purpose, that everything happens for a reason. You can kind of see the overarching theme. You can connect the dots between people and understand that whatever the situation is, it will get better. And I think that's how I was able to really help lead people through change in my last role, is that I could look beyond what's happening now and understand that we'll all be in a better place at some point and help take people in that direction. The other reflection I had on what you said is, in the typical corporate environment, projectors aren't necessarily, and I don't want to generalize, but they're less valued than I would say a generator, where you are creating output. Because in the corporate environment, it's all about do, and show results ASAP. There's the time frame of you need to be in the office from 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever. And you were talking about, short bursts of energy, right? How do people adapt to avoid becoming completely misaligned in the corporate environment? How do they adapt to that so that they're using their energies in the best way? But then on the contrary, how can companies be more in tune to the unique needs of their employees, rather than, just having this one size fits all approach to doing work and creating productivity?
I love that. And, I work with a lot of projectors, and they always express the same, right? And I think that that's the power of this awareness. the idea here is that you learn, that each of us learns how to read our own energy. That's the first thing. It's about self-empowerment. It's about understanding how you work and what you can, what you can offer and what do you need to give yourself. I think that that's the most important thing. If you are so centered and so aligned with yourself, then you're able to establish healthy boundaries. You are able to organize yourself in a way that you know that you're doing what works best for you and for the company. Because at the end of the day, we're all here to be of service, but everyone has a different way of doing it. And so I think it starts by honoring ourselves first. Projector energy is here to guide, teach, and lead with your perspective, right? And human design doesn't tell you what to do, but it tells you what's the best way to do it, right? That's very important to keep in mind because every projector can do anything, but it's how they're going to do it that is going to be a little bit different, right? So projectors, you have the capacity. If you think of a battery, if a generator's battery is like to be used throughout the day, fully, yours is a little bit shorter. So you use your energy, maybe you do very deep focus work in the morning, and then you take some break, and then you go back to it in the afternoon if needed, right? But you need to know that back-to-back meetings are never going to be a good idea for you. That's one way that you can start saying, am I blocking time to do my deep thinking, to be in my own energy? So that already is a game changer. You're not owning your agenda. If you're not blocking time for yourself, you're going to be experiencing not just burnout and, overall stress and adrenal fatigue and all of that, but especially bitterness, which for you, for example, is your signpost to know that you're off track. If you don't have time, if projectors don't have time to think, right, and to replenish and to nurture themselves and give themselves that rest to be in their own energy, the signpost to know that they are off track is bitterness. If you're trying to keep up with the world around you and not giving yourself what you need, that's the signpost. That's how you know you're off track. So emotional awareness is very, very important. Am I feeling bitter? This is a very important signpost to. It's not about removing the source of it, but it's like, is there another way how I can use my energy? Where can I implement some change? And so it starts with us. And definitely the more that we know that people use their energies in different ways, the more we can honor that. That's why the work in teams is so important, right? I worked with a team once and there were many projectors. So that team, if it's full of projectors, then they're going to be super efficient because projectors is like, how is the best way, the most efficient way? You love systems. You love to master systems and to get the most efficient way because for you, it's more about working smarter, not harder. And if you think about it, you're the new leaders of the world. It's like the 4-day week is coming from projector energy. We don't have to go. We can be super efficient in shorter time.
All right, let's do this. Let's start. When is the 4-day work week starting? I've been wondering. I've been asking myself that question for a while now.
check the projector movement. There's so many projectors that are like, hey, we can do things in a different way. Because if you think about it, generators, we can go. We can have so much done. But sometimes we need your guidance to say, what's the best way to go about this? We're the builders, we're the doers. But we sometimes, it's so much energy that we need it guided. And this is where you guys come in.
I love that. Is there anything else about that? Because I know these are normally 90-minute sessions and we're starting to come to a close with today's episode. Is there anything else that you wanted to reflect on this particular profile that would be helpful for the audience and how you interpret readings like this?
Well, so I'm making it very, very broad. So we're not looking specifically at your design. But one of the things that I'm going to say is like, it's for projectors. So if there's any listener projector there, the way that you best make things happen is by waiting for the invitation. That is your strategy. Because your gift is the perspective that you bring is such a gift. If you're not invited to share your perspective, it's almost like you're misusing your energy. It's not going to land, right? So you have a perspective, but if it's not invited in, it's almost like you're planting where the soil is unfertile. Is understanding that you're here to be successful. You're here to show that there's another way of success that is rooted in ease, of working smarter, not harder, but also know that for your energy to be, for your gift to be accepted and to actually land, it needs to be invited in. And being invited in doesn't really mean that it's just a formal invitation or that you're just waiting. It's not passive at all. But you need to make yourself visible so that people can invite you in. And in order for you to make yourself visible, you need to see the value that you bring.
That's a great way to wrap up this episode, Paula. This was really enlightening for me to really understand and interpret what you're sharing on the screen right now, and how it really helps you tune into your true self and your authentic self. This opens up the pathway for a lot of people to really do some self-exploration, just like you did, on your journey to human design.
Yeah.
I know it certainly helped me in the last 30 minutes understand myself a little bit better. So thank you for that gift.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And thank you for being here today. Just a reminder to all of our listeners, this is Paula Torraco. She lives in the Netherlands. She is the founder of To Be Honest. Her website is www.tobehonest.eu. She also has some cool stuff coming up around human design reports. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Thank you. And what I'm launching now, it's a new product that is a blueprint. So it's a PDF in your inbox with all this information that I'm sharing with Rebecca, for example, that is very personalized to your own profile. And I think that's a wonderful way to, start. I offer this whenever I do a reading. I offer this as a side, offer, so that people have their own operating manual and they can go back to it forever. Because actually, that's the power of this. This is your energy of how you were born, and we're remembering it. Where it's a journey and an experiment of going back into alignment. So this actually works for life. It's a journey. It's an experiment. You start experimenting with probably waiting for the invitation or waiting to respond in other cases, and then from there, you learn how to best make decisions. For example. You actually, Rebecca, I'm going to just drop it. You make it with your intuition, and it's never with the mind. That serves for everyone. No one makes decisions with our mind. We make it with a version of, an expression in our body. So it's so powerful to have that report personalized for each of us.
I love that. And what you just said reminds me a lot of a coaching session that I was in recently, where the coach was saying how much the mind and the body are connected as far as decision making is concerned. And the expression, I had a gut feeling about that. It literally your gut is connected to your brain. So there's science behind that as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's all different languages for the same. I think actually science is catching up with spirituality in some ways, because that gut feeling, and science is now figuring out how that actually works. But it's exactly true. Most of us make decisions with our guts, some make with our emotions. In your case, you actually make it with your intuition. And it's intuition. It's not so much instinct. It's like a whisper. It's something that actually needs you to get really, really quiet to listen to it. And the trick here is that it's there to be trusted, not made sense of. Because the mind operates from the past, from what it knows, from what it learned, and your body is your compass towards the present and the future.
What a powerful vessel, as you call it, to tune into your body. This such an inspiring conversation. Everyone, connect with Paula if you want your operating manual for living life.
Please, always welcome. Yeah.
And thank you again for joining me today. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you for the invitation. And I'm really happy to be here and sharing this that I'm obviously so passionate about. So thank you for the space, and thank you for everyone tuning in.
This podcast is designed to help busy business leaders create an inspired and engaged workforce. I am building a community of like-minded leaders and experts who all share the same passion, taking care of people at work. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please subscribe wherever you like to listen to podcasts. If you know someone who I should interview or should be part of this community, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Life is too short. Let's take care of each other at work so that together we can make this world a better place.